Hello and welcome back to Jack Knives Reviews. I'm of course your host, Jack Knives, and welcome to the final installment of Crow Month. With the final installment of Crow Month, I will be ranking all of the Crow movies from 5 to 1st. But in order to do that, I need to first go over the movie that has got this whole month a-rolling, that brought up so much controversy, that brought about so much anger and rage, even in its pre-beta form. The reimagining of The Crow. Eric and Shelley are two people filled with regret, meeting at a rehab facility and falling in love. Shelley, constantly running from her own past, and specifically a man named Vincent who can manipulate souls to stay immortal, ends up being brutally murdered in front of Eric, along with him dying as well. Eric awakens in the realm of the Crow with the ability to keep coming back, keep regenerating, but unfortunately still feeling the pain. Now Eric must take the mantle of the Crow to get brutal revenge on those who took Shelley away, and hopefully get her back. So before I can actually go into this movie, I need to first address a few things. First off, the original movie itself, even before this saw the light of day, was essentially in development hell for years. Originally, they were going to have a movie called The Crow Reborn, which was going to star Jason Momoa, and there is even a photo floating around of him with the makeup teased, where you could vaguely get an idea of what it's going to look like. And to be honest with you, when I first heard that, I was a little more irritated than the average fan, who would have just gone, oh yeah, because at the time, this was the time of Game of Thrones and everyone was just so crazy into Jason Momoa. And nothing against Jason Momoa as an actor. I do feel he's a fantastic actor. My problem is the character of the Crow has never been a character who you would see as a big, domineering force until he gets the powers of the Crow. Part of the appeal of the character is that he's underestimated, get enhanced by the power of the Crow. Almost a Spider-Man-esque style, if you will. But Jason Momoa, he's huge. He's not a small man. So for him to already, before being the Crow, be huge, just doesn't really make any sense for me. Now that we got that out of the way, we can actually focus on the actual movie itself. And from day -1, this movie was criticized, ridiculed, run down, torn apart, nitpicked, and eviscerated even before any fragment of celluloid hit our eyes. Because it was, they're going to tarnish the legacy of Brandon Lee. They're going to tarnish the legacy of the 94 Crow. I'm here to tell you, it does not do that at all. It does the one thing I always thrive for in a remake or reimagining. Evil Dead, The Thing, or Ocean's 11. Need to do what made the original good, but in its own style. Make it wholly unique and yet somewhat recognizable to the original. And this movie, for the most part, does that. In fact, the only thing this really has in common with the original movie is the two first names of the two main leads. The reason I say that is because they're never given last names at all in the entire movie. So as far as I'm concerned, they're completely different characters. And I believe that was intentional as far as the movies are concerned. It's not without its flaws, though. For instance, the biggest issue a lot of people have with this movie is that it doesn't feel like a singular movie. It feels like two halves of a completely separate story with the same characters. Think a movie like From Dusk Till Dawn, if you will. This movie is similar in that vein. It goes from a really coming-of-age teen romance, weird, dark, twisted thing involving sorcery, magic, and really messed up things. FKA Twigs plays Shelley in the new one, and for the most part, she's okay. She's a little sweet. She seems like a likable person, if not extremely naive and young and, well, let's be honest, stupid. In a reasonable, rational way that people can attach themselves to. Now we get to Bill Skarsgård as Eric, aka the Crow. This is the part where I have a little bit of problems with. He's not the worst Crow. He's not the best Crow. Kind of somewhere in between. But I think the biggest issue I had with him is that the majority of the movie, even before he's the Crow, whiny to a T. I mean, obviously he's no Edward Furlong as far as the level of whine, but he's frustratingly unheroic. Which, I get it, or empathetic, sympathetic, and flawed. I get that. But did you need to make him this flawed even beforehand? I mean, even before meeting Shelley, his life was kind of crap. And then, like, it got a little better, and then it went back to crap, I guess? I don't know. It's weird. Unlike the other Crow movies, though, he doesn't really have any allies. Right? He really doesn't have anything. And I think that's a reflective of the character. Crow, though, it feels like that is where the movie should have started. A lot of the first act was padding. Like, a lot of padding. Which, fair enough, I will say, every Crow movie has never really dived into the relationship. How it started, how it organically happened, how it manifested, and how it ended. This movie actually does that. So kudos on the filmmakers for actually trying to finally do something with that. Problem is that it's a Crow movie, and with the Crow, you expect to see more of the Crow. Which you kind of do. It's not like, there isn't any action sequence, because trust me, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of blood. Maybe this either should have been trimmed, or it should have been, I don't know, maybe it should have been just changed slightly, I guess. I don't know. I give The Crow 2024 3.5 out of 5. Now keep in mind, the rating scale of the movie on their own are separate to The Crow. So keep that in mind as I give my personal top 5 rankings of the Crow movies. Starting off this rank, we're going to the bottom of the barrel one last time with The Crow Wicked Prayer. That's right, the stanky dumpster fire that is that movie. It is so horribly bad. Should have never seen the light of day. And yes, I know it may seem like I'm going too harsh on it, but until you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. It shouldn't be called The Crow. This is straight to DVD dumpster fire garbage, which it is, but it's not even enjoyable garbage, if that makes any sense. Now on to number 4, I'm going with Crow City of Angels. It's not necessarily that it's a bad movie. No, by any metric, it's just a fairly good, decent Crow movie that was too big for its own good. It had the unfortunate horrible shadow cast upon after the 94 movie that it could never escape, no matter how much it tried. And as I said before, Vincent Perez does a fantastic job as the Crow. The story is intriguing, it's got a lot of good things for it, and I think the villain is actually pretty damn good. And it doesn't let itself stand on its own. And as sad as that is, it's just the way it is as far as the story goes. What it has in high budget, it lacks in story. And on to number 3, the black sheep, the underrated, and the one always overlooked, The Crow Salvation. This one is probably my favorite of the sequels on a personal level, because I feel that the story is unique. It's wholly different. And obviously the character who plays the Crow is fantastic. I think he does a great job enabling a semblance to Eric Draven, but being its own thing, and adding a little bit of Vincent Perez in there too. Created this kind of detective Crow, which I kind of dig in a weird way, where I'm like, okay, well, this is a totally different avenue that you could take with the Crow. Purely not only was his love killed, but he was framed for the killing, so he doesn't even know who killed them. So the entire movie isn't about getting redemption for the love, it's about figuring out who and why the killing happened. So it's a totally different dynamic. Number 2 is the new reimagining of The Crow. I feel that the biggest issue, and the thing that always overlooks Crow Salvation, it had an amazing story. It had great characters, and it had a really well done overall arching narrative. The biggest issue it had was a low budget. This movie's biggest flaw is 100% not trimming itself down. And sometimes with a film like this, in the film franchise, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. You need to be able to hold yourself back and hold yourself accountable. This movie, it spends the entire first half seeing the beginning, middle, and end of an entire relationship. It should have started after they escaped and then gone from there. Unfortunately for this movie, there's only one king, and that is the 1994 Crow with Brandon Lee. I'm sorry, it's been 30 years, but we're still talking about this movie. And it's astounding the level of inspiration that this movie still brings out. I know people who are couples who put this on every Valentine's Day or every anniversary. If you just put it to its bare basics, it's a action movie based on a comic book that's about a love lost. And yet people connect to it. They connect to Eric Draven, characters within, because it allows us, the audience, us, the fans, us, the lovers of this franchise, to actually be able to attach and see a correlation between our emotions, feeling like the world's against us, and the hope that one time just someone can just rise up and make the wrong things right again. It's just an overall amazing movie. I mean, we wouldn't talk about it 30 years later if it wasn't. We wouldn't be constantly comparing all of these other 4 movies to this movie if it wasn't that good. And we wouldn't still be talking about Brandon Lee over 30 years since he's passed away. And it's 100% justified. Each of these movies need to be examined and enjoyed on their own. All of them are a part of a franchise. A franchise started 30 years ago and started roughly 35 years ago in book form. That's no small task from a first-time writer who based it all off the love that he lost. And through that love that James O'Barr lost, created the concepts, seeds of storytelling that eventually grew into what we know, hopefully, a new sense of love from us to him. So those are my overall thoughts of the Crow remake and ranking of all of the Crow movies. But let me know, did you change your ranking? Have you seen all of the Crow movies? Have you not seen all the Crow movies? What's your overall thoughts on the character itself? And what movies do you want me to check out as far as a franchise? Let me know in the comments down below. And before I go, let's give a sincere thank you to Brandon Lee. Rest in peace.